Hey everyone, Ian from Eurogamer here, and if you hadn't already guessed from my previous coverage, I've been playing quite a bit of Dragons Dogma II recently. Now, if you've never played the original Dragons Dogma game, it is safe to say that getting into Dragons Dogma II will probably be a little bit confusing at first. Like Elden Ring, Dragons Dogma II doesn't really lead you by the hand, and it isn't that great at explaining things. At all. In fact, Dragons Dogma 2 kind of assumes that you've played the first game already, which means your first few hours in Vermund have the potential to be quite aggravating and overwhelming. And that's where I come in. This guide, you see, is for total beginners who are feeling out of their depth, or those who haven't bought the game yet but want a bit of a primer so that they can hit the ground running once they finally have it in their sweaty little palms. So if that sounds like you, great, because I made this video for you, because I want you to enjoy Dragons Dogma 2 as much as I do, even with those frame rates that everyone keeps crying about. Enjoy!
Forgive me for being a burden, Arisen.
Okay, let's kick things off with something super simple, and that is the camera distance slider here. Dragons Dogma 2's camera is zoomed all the way in by default, and this can make hectic battles in areas with lots of foliage fairly confusing on the old eyeballs. Before you even start playing then, whack this slider all the way up to full, and then that way you'll have a better view of both the battlefield and the gorgeous panoramas that the game has to offer. One of the first things you'll need to decide on when starting Dragons Dogma 2 and creating your Arisen character is their vocation. Vocation is basically a fancy word for a character class, and you can see here that there are 4 base vocations to choose from at the start of the game: Fighter, Archer, Mage, and Thief. As with all RPG-style classes, each vocation has its own unique skills, and in this game, they're called weapon skills, and they can be bought and upgraded. But I'll cover that in more detail later on. These 4 vocations aren't the only ones that will be available to you as you play through the game. Later on, you'll be able to unlock more by following certain quests, like the Warrior and the Sorcerer vocations here, which can be unlocked by bringing either a great sword or an archer staff to the Guildmaster of the Vernworth Vocation Guild. I played a late-stage save of Dragons Dogma 2 for a preview event a few weeks ago, and I was able to try out the Magic Archer and Mystic Spearhand vocations, which were both awesome. But cheeky Capcom wouldn't tell me how to unlock them, so this is going to be something that you'll need to discover for yourself on your own adventures.
Weakness, but it's strength.
Let's save our fire magics for another time then.
You ought not anger the Overseer. Let us proceed to the site.
But before you go off trying to find out how to do that, you'll first need to find a way to get out of this accursed mine and towards the city of Vernworth. And to do that, you'll need to get your head around how clunky and confusing Dragons Dogma 2's map and minimap can be, especially in busy areas like cities. Use this prison mine area to get used to following storyline important NPCs like Rook here by keeping an eye on your minimap for a golden diamond, which marks his location relative to yours. Later in the game, story missions are marked by a golden sword icon, but it's not always clear which mission they're pointing to, as the game has a habit of defaulting to a random story mission every time you finish a quest. To avoid following the wrong waypoint for hours, which is totally something I've done, make sure you regularly go to the world map and select the quest list option. Here you can easily change up your priority quest, which is the one highlighted on the map and the minimap with the golden sword icon, and you can even use this moment to find out the locations of your other available quests on the map. In the quest list, you can even dig into the finer details of each quest to refresh your memory if, say, like me, you're prone to wandering off in a random direction for a couple of hours and then completely forgetting what you were meant to be doing.
Welcome, Arisen. We pawns have long awaited your arrival.
Pawns are a huge part of Dragons Dogma 2, and they'll be your bestest friends as you go out and about on your adventures. Pawns are AI-controlled companions who will do everything from fighting with you, healing you, and giving you weapon buffs, through to carrying all that lovely loot that's threatening to over-encumber you. The Border Watch outpost here is a super important early game location, as it's not only where you get to create your main pawn who will stay with you throughout the game, but it's also where you can recruit 2 extra pawns from a random pool of pawns that have been created by other Dragons Dogma 2 players. Once the game gives you the option to enter the Outpost Rift here, jump right in and have a look around at all the pawns on offer. Some are free and some cost Rift coins to hire, so pick the 2 that you fancy the most, as long as you can afford them of course, as you can have 3 pawns in total right from the off. The game doesn't really tell you any of this, so I can imagine a lot of newcomers may miss out on picking up a couple of extra pawns and just end up doing a big chunk of the game with 50% fewer pals than they should actually have. Oh, and it's best to pick an assortment of classes for your squad too, just so you have all angles covered, like healing and ranged attack and someone to climb up things and bonk them on the head.
Really? Now? In traversing other worlds, I came to know of a treasure chest in this area. Perchance you'd like to see it.
One great thing about hiring pawns from the Rift is that they will remember their previous adventures with other players. So, for instance, if a pawn has come from a player who is further into the game than you, there's a high chance that that pawn will then be able to guide you to upcoming missions, or even secrets in the game world that their master has found in their play sessions, but that you're yet to discover. If a pawn has something cool to show you, it will tell you. They are very vocal.
In traversing other worlds, I came to know of a treasure chest in this area.
And then, if you press up on the D-pad, that pawn will lead you to the point of interest. Look for the hand symbol on the mini-map and the hand symbol by the pawn's name in the game to know exactly which pal to follow, and you'll be swimming in riches in no time.
Ah, here's the cart now. Do you intend to join us?
This next point is going to wind a lot of impatient people up, because Dragons Dogma 2's fast travel is almost non-existent, which can make its huge world even more overwhelming to traverse. The 2 types of fast travel it does have are cumbersome and fairly restrictive as well. The first method is travelling by ox cart. You'll get an introduction to this early on in the game as you follow Gregor towards Vernworth. Normally you have to pay for carts, but this first one is free, so climb aboard, sit down and then doze off in order to wake up closer to your destination. And I say closer there because chances are your cart will be ambushed along the way. Bear in mind that you can only take this mode of transport at a certain point in the day, so you may have to do a little bit of waiting around in order for the ox carts to start running. And if you do decide to sleep through the long journey, the fog of war on the map will not clear along any route that you have travelled when your eyes are closed. So if you're a bit OCD with clearing the whole map, you aren't going to be a fan of this one at all. The other method of fast travel uses things called port crystals and consumables called ferry stones. This is much closer to normal fast travel systems, but it is still a pain in the ass to use. Port crystals can be discovered around the map, but they're really hard to find and they need to be interacted with before they can even be used. And in order to use them, you have to also use one of the one use and it's gone ferry stone consumables, which when selected will give you a choice of which active port crystal you want to go to. Ferry stones can be found in chests, given as quest rewards, or bought from traders, but they are super expensive and finding them is pretty rare, so you really shouldn't use them carelessly because they are super hard to get if you've run out of them. There are also temporary port crystals that you can place wherever you want, allegedly, but I haven't found or used any of those yet, so I figure they're probably as rare as griffin poo.
Ah, you've returned.
With all that being said, if you are super new to the Dragons Dogma experience, don't do what I did and jump straight on an ox cart to Vernworth in order to follow the main storyline. A knight called Gregor will usher you towards the city of Vernworth, but don't go there straight away, as you'll miss out on a couple of very easy to miss training style quests. Speak to Lennart here, for instance, to get a cool quest where you're asked to throw explosive and poison barrels at a nest of saurian eggs, which is a perfect way to get used to the game's incredibly fun throwing mechanics.
Saurians, Master. Ice attacks will soon see the Scoveld.
Oh, and definitely talk to this excellently named NPC here, who is looking for his brother Norbert. Chatting to Ian will kick off a short quest that will lead you to an area which will teach you all about camping. Which brings me nicely onto my next point.
This is a good spot. Let's stop here a moment.
Camping in Dragons Dogma II is super important, as it's a great way to recover health and get buffs when you're on one of the many long, perilous treks that the game has to offer. To camp, you'll need two things: a spot with a semi-lit campfire like this one, and a camping kit. No camping kit? No camping. So always make sure that you have one in your possession before embarking on a huge hike. Word of warning though, camping kits are extremely heavy and you'll be at risk of over-encumberment if you carry more than two at a time. So if you find yourself with too many, give one to a pawn to lighten your load. But when exactly should you camp? Well, if you've been through a lot of battles, you'll probably notice that your character and your pawns are not fully refilling their health bars when healing. That's a good sign that everyone needs a good hot meal and a little snooze. So search for a fire, set up camp, and if you have some meat in your inventory, don't forget to activate the campfire for both a wonderful live action shot of some red hot meat sizzling away and some extra buffs to your character's defense, attack, strength, and health. Yummy.
Not like a feast to get you ready for bed.
Here at the inn, we also offer changes of vocation for those who seek it.
One of the most important things that you need to do before you leave Melve is visit the inn and chat to Tristan here. Tristan is a member of the Vocation Guild, and Vocation Guild members are not only the people that you can buy new vocations from, as I explained before, but they're also the folks that you need to talk to if you want to buy vocation-specific weapon skills, which, believe me, you do. At this point in the game, you'll probably only be leveled up enough to have unlocked a couple of new weapon skills, but the more you level up your vocation, the more weapon skills you will unlock. And this also includes upgrades to previously bought weapon skills too. To activate those weapon skills, you normally have to hold down a shoulder button on your controller. For the fighter class, it's L1 on PlayStation, for example. And then all you need to do is press the button that you assign to your skill to activate it. Handily, in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen, you can see exactly what each button on your controller does, and when you hold down L1, this text will change to show you the skills that you have equipped to each button. I ended up buying most of my fighter's skills from the Vocation Guild in Vernworth, but Tristan here will ease you in gently and allow you to get your head around these mechanics nice and early in the game.
Do come again.
Here's a super useful tip if you don't want to use up a lot of lives, aka consumables called wake stones, due to an unfortunate death. Even when you're in the middle of a death animation, you can pause the game, enter your item menu, and use some kind of health-granting edible like the fruit roborant to bring you back from the brink of expiration. This is also true for stamina-granting items like the Harspud. The stamina will reduce when you do things like running and using weapon skills, and running out of stamina will leave you a wheezing, vulnerable mess.
Let my magic imbue your weapon with the fury of the elements.
Running out of stamina is also true when the climbing mechanics come into play. Pretty much every big monster in the game can be climbed, Shadow of Colossus style, which is awesome fun, but with your limited stamina, you'll likely get tossed off before you can reach the top. But if you jump into the item menu and slide a spud down your gullet just before you completely run out of stamina, you'll be able to continue your clamber towards your foe's lovely, stabbable face. And on that note, most enemies in the game have some kind of weak point. I'm still fairly early into Dragons Dogma 2, so I probably haven't met most of the monsters that it offers, but climbing up things and stabbing them in the face is always a winning strategy in my book. Sadly, that approach won't work on everything though. These stone golems, for instance, need to be hit on all of their glowing weak points if you want to inflict maximum damage. Then there's the Saurians, who you'll meet fairly early on in the game. They can be a really tough fight for low-level Arisen and their pawns, especially if there's a lot of them coming at you at once, because they take loads of hits to take down. Unless you chop their tails off, that is. As soon as you've removed their tail, those little lizardy losers will instantly become vulnerable to all damage, and you'll then be able to put them down in a couple of easy hits. And that's your lot, pals. I hope this beginner's guide has set you up for some excellent adventures and a much smoother experience than you may have had if you'd gone in blind. Thanks for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, do give it a like, subscribe to Eurogamer for more videos about video games, and do have a wonderful time tossing pawns off of cliffs. Sure, they might die if they land in deep water, but don't worry, because you can always get some new ones from the rift. Goodbye.
Thanks, Ian.
Oh, you're welcome.